quiet beginning. The evening begins slowly, in a small village somewhere in the countryside of 15th century Europe. The sun is just beginning to sink behind the distant hills, and the sky above the village glows with soft shades of orange and pale gold. The light of the day is fading gently now, not quickly, not suddenly, but slowly and calmly, as if the whole world is preparing to rest. Welcome again to Sleep-Bound Stories, where time moves softly and every moment unfolds at a peaceful and unhurried pace. Before we step further into this quiet story, take one more moment to settle in. If you haven't already, dim the lights around you. Let the room grow a little darker, a little calmer, a little more peaceful. Find a comfortable sleeping position, perhaps lying on your back or curled gently onto your side beneath a warm blanket. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let your arms rest comfortably. Let your breathing become slow and natural. There is nowhere you need to go right now, and nothing you need to do. Only listen, and drift slowly into the quiet rhythm of this gentle story. Now imagine, very softly, a small medieval village resting between open fields and narrow dirt roads. The houses here are simple, built from timber beams and pale plaster walls, with steep wooden roofs that protect the homes from winter snow and heavy rains. The village is not large. Only a handful of cottages stand along the narrow paths, each one quietly waiting for the evening to arrive. Thin trails of smoke rise slowly from several chimneys, curling upward into the cooling air. Somewhere nearby, a wooden gate creaks softly as a farmer closes it for the night. The sounds of the day are fading now. The busy footsteps of the afternoon have grown slower, quieter, and softer. Across the fields, a few farmers are walking home along the dusty road, their boots pressing gently into the earth. Their long day of work is almost finished. A wooden cart rolls slowly toward the village square, its wheels turning with a quiet creak, carrying bundles of hay gathered before sunset. The horses move calmly, their breathing steady, their pace slow and patient. Above them, the evening sky grows deeper in colour. The golden sunlight slowly fades into a cooler blue as the first signs of twilight begin to appear. A soft breeze drifts across the open fields, carrying the faint scent of grass, soil, and distant wood smoke. It is the kind of evening that feels peaceful simply by existing. Nothing here is rushed. Nothing is loud. Everything moves at the gentle pace of a world that has not yet discovered hurry. Near the centre of the village stands a small stone well. The path beside it is worn smooth from many years of footsteps. Villagers gathering water, sharing quiet conversations, and watching the slow passing of the seasons. Tonight, however, the well stands mostly silent. Only the breeze moves across it, brushing lightly against the rope and wooden bucket hanging beside the stone wall. Not far from the well sits a small cottage, simple, warm, and welcoming. Its wooden door faces the narrow path that winds through the village, and its small windows glow faintly with the light of a candle burning somewhere inside. This is where our story will rest tonight. Inside this quiet cottage lives a small family who have just finished their long day of simple work. Their evening, like the village itself, is slow, calm, and peaceful. But before we step inside the cottage, take a moment to notice the stillness of the village around it. The last birds of the day glide gently across the sky before settling into the branches of nearby trees. Somewhere far away a dog barks once, then falls silent again. A wooden shutter closes softly against the side of another cottage as someone prepares their home for the night. And above it all, the sky grows a little darker, a little quieter, a little more calm. The first faint star begins to appear in the deepening blue. Night is coming slowly now. The village is preparing to sleep. And as the peaceful evening settles over the rooftops, the warm light inside that small cottage continues to glow softly in the growing darkness. In just a few moments, we will step inside, where the gentle warmth of a fireplace and the quiet rhythm of a simple evening await. But for now, simply rest here for a moment, in the calm air of this quiet medieval village, as the day slowly fades into night. A village settling into evening. The light of the day continues to fade slowly across the small medieval village. The warm gold of the setting sun has softened now into a quiet shade of dusky blue, and long, gentle shadows stretch across the narrow dirt paths that weave between the cottages. Evening has a peaceful rhythm here, a rhythm that has remained the same for generations. There are no bright lamps lighting the streets, no loud engines, no hurried footsteps rushing from place to place. Instead, the village moves slowly, guided by the fading light of the sun and the gentle signals of nature preparing for night. Along the edge of the fields, a farmer walks quietly toward his home. His boots press softly into the dusty ground as he follows the familiar path he's taken many times before. Over his shoulder rests a simple wooden tool used for tending the land. It has served him through many seasons, through warm summers, cool autumns, and long winters. Now, after a long day beneath the open sky, his pace is slow and steady. The work is finished for today. Across the field, a few sheep gather near a wooden fence, their soft movements calm and unhurried. They shift quietly in the grass as the breeze passes through the tall blades around them. The air itself feels cooler now, the warmth of the afternoon slowly drifting away. A faint smell of wood smoke moves gently through the village, carried by the evening wind. One by one, the cottages begin to glow with small points of candlelight. Inside each home, families are preparing for the quiet hours of the night. A wooden door opens softly somewhere down the path, followed by the quiet murmur of voices. Someone calls gently to a child who is still playing outside near the well. Small footsteps move across the ground, then disappear inside the warm shelter of a cottage. Further down the narrow lane, a pair of neighbours pause for a brief conversation. Their voices are low and calm, drifting through the cool air before fading again into silence. Even the animals of the village seem to understand that the day is ending. A few chickens settle quietly into their wooden coop. A horse shifts gently in its stall, its slow breathing steady and relaxed after pulling a cart throughout the afternoon. Above the rooftops, the sky deepens further into twilight. The first stars begin to appear, faint at first, like small distant sparks scattered across the darkening sky. The moon is rising now as well, pale and quiet above the trees at the edge of the village. Its soft light spreads gently across the fields and rooftops, adding another layer of calm to the evening. Near the centre of the village, the old stone church stands peacefully beside the narrow road. Its tall wooden door remains closed for the night, but from within the small bell tower above, a single bell begins to ring. The sound is slow, deep, and steady. One soft chime, followed by another. The bell marks the passing of the day, a quiet reminder that evening has arrived. The sound drifts across the rooftops and fields, echoing softly through the peaceful village. Then, just as gently as it began, the bell grows silent once more. For a few moments, the entire village rests in stillness. Only the wind continues to move, brushing softly against wooden shutters and the edges of thatched roofs. Not far from the church, the small cottage we noticed earlier stands quietly beside the winding path. Its walls are made from timber beams filled with pale plaster, and its roof slopes gently downward beneath a layer of aged wooden shingles. From the outside, the cottage appears simple, like many others in the village, but through the small square window beside the door, a warm golden light flickers softly. Inside, a candle burns beside the hearth, and the faint glow of a small fire dances gently against the walls. The warmth of the cottage stands in gentle contrast to the cool evening air outside. A quiet sense of comfort fills the small home. This is the place where our story will continue. Inside these wooden walls, the slow and peaceful routine of a medieval evening is just beginning. A pot hangs above the fireplace. A wooden table waits quietly near the centre of the room. A pair of simple chairs rest beside it, worn smooth from many years of use. The fire crackles softly, sending small sparks of orange light into the air before they fade again, and somewhere within the cottage someone moves gently across the wooden floor, preparing the evening meal. Soon we will step inside, where the warmth of the fire and the calm rhythm of family life unfold slowly through the quiet hours of the night. But for now, the village itself continues to grow quieter, softer, and more peaceful with every passing moment. The stars above shine a little brighter now, the breeze moves a little slower, and the calm of the medieval evening settles gently over everything. The gentle warmth of the hearth. Now that we've stepped quietly inside the small cottage, the peaceful warmth of the room begins to settle around us. The air inside feels different from the cool evening outside. It is warmer here, softer, carrying the comforting scent of burning wood and simple food slowly cooking over the fire. At the heart of the cottage is the fireplace, a small stone hearth built carefully into the wall many years ago. The stones are darkened slightly from long seasons of smoke and flame, but they hold the warmth of the fire in a way that fills the whole room with a gentle glow. The fire itself is calm tonight. A few sturdy logs rest within the hearth, glowing softly as orange embers flicker beneath them. Every now and then a small flame rises between the logs, dancing quietly for a moment before settling again. The sound it makes is soft and steady, a gentle crackle, a quiet pop, the faint shifting of wood as it slowly burns. It is the kind of sound that asks nothing from you, only that you listen and relax. Above the fire, a simple iron hook hangs from a wooden beam. Suspended from it is a small cooking pot, blackened from many evenings spent above the flames. Inside the pot, a humble soup is warming slowly. Every few moments the liquid inside shifts with a quiet bubble, sending a soft cloud of steam rising into the air. The steam carries with it the faint smell of herbs, onions, and root vegetables that have been gathered from the nearby fields. Nothing here is rushed. The soup cooks slowly, just as meals have been prepared in this cottage for many years. Near the hearth stands a sturdy wooden table. It is not large, but it has served the family well through countless evenings like this one. The surface of the table is smooth in some places and worn in others, shaped by the passing of many quiet meals and simple conversations. Beside the table sit two wooden chairs and a long bench. The wood creaks softly when someone shifts their weight, a familiar and comforting sound within the small home. On the table rests a round loaf of bread baked earlier in the day. Its crust is golden and firm, while the inside remains soft and warm. Next to it lies a small wooden board and a simple knife with a worn handle. The candle beside the table flickers gently, its small flame bending slightly whenever a faint draught moves through the room. The light from the candle and the glow of the fire together create a calm dance of shadows along the walls of the cottage. The wooden beams above seem to stretch quietly across the ceiling, holding the house together with quiet strength. In one corner of the room stands a simple shelf carved from thick wood. A few clay bowls rest upon it, along with several earthen cups used for water or warm drink. These objects are plain, but each one has been shaped by careful hands. Nothing in the cottage is unnecessary. Everything has its purpose and its place. Near the doorway rests a pair of sturdy boots, placed neatly against the wall after a long day of walking through fields and village paths. A wool cloak hangs nearby on a wooden peg, its fabric thick and warm for the colder nights that will soon arrive. The floor beneath our feet is made from wide wooden planks. They're slightly uneven from years of use, but they hold the warmth of the fire comfortably within the room. As the fire continues to burn slowly, the cottage becomes a place of deep quiet. Outside, the night is slowly growing darker. The village paths are nearly empty now. Most of the villagers have already stepped inside their homes, closing their wooden doors against the cool evening air. But here in this small cottage, the calm rhythm of the evening continues. The soup warms gently above the fire. The candle glows softly beside the table, and the steady crackle of the hearth fills the room with a quiet sense of comfort. For a moment, simply imagine sitting here beside the fire. The warmth touches your hands. The soft light flickers across the wooden walls. Your breathing slows, matching the gentle rhythm of the flames. Nothing needs to be hurried. Nothing needs to change. This small medieval cottage, resting peacefully in the quiet village night, is exactly where the evening wishes to be. And as the warmth of the hearth continues to spread through the room, the peaceful story of this simple home moves slowly forward, one calm moment at a time, every passing moment. From far away, the faint hoot of an owl echoes across the quiet fields. The sound drifts through the cool night air, calm and lonely, before fading once again into silence. Inside the cottage, however, everything remains warm and peaceful. The soup continues to simmer. The bread waits quietly on the table. The spindle turns slowly, creating thread one gentle twist at a time. Even the wooden beams of the cottage seem to rest quietly above, holding the small home together with patient strength. This is the quiet rhythm of evening work, not hurried, not heavy, just small, steady movements carried out in the calm glow of firelight. For a moment, imagine yourself here, sitting beside the warm hearth, listening to the quiet crackle of the fire, watching the slow turning of the spindle, feeling the peaceful stillness of a medieval evening unfolding gently around you. There is nothing else to worry about tonight, only the soft warmth of the cottage and the quiet passing of time. The simple evening meal. As the quiet work of the evening continues, the small pot hanging above the hearth begins to release a richer and warmer scent. The soup inside has been simmering slowly for quite some time now. The vegetables have softened, the herbs have blended gently into the broth, and the warmth of the fire has filled the cottage with a comforting smell. It is a simple meal, but in a small medieval village cottage like this one, simple meals are often the most satisfying. The wooden spoon is lifted slowly from the side of the hearth. With a gentle movement, it dips into the pot and begins to stir the soup. Round and round the spoon moves, slowly guiding the vegetables through the warm broth. The liquid shifts quietly, creating soft ripples that catch the glow of the firelight. Another small bubble rises to the surface, then disappears again. The spoon rests for a moment before stirring once more. Nothing here needs to be hurried. Meals in the cottage are not rushed. They are part of the peaceful rhythm of the evening. After a long day of work in the fields or along the village roads, a warm bowl of soup and fresh bread is more than enough. The loaf of bread waiting on the wooden table is brought a little closer now. Another slice is cut, thick and uneven, the crust giving a soft crack as the knife passes through. Small crumbs scatter gently across the table. The bread is placed beside a clay bowl that has been carefully set near the candle. Soon the soup will be poured inside. The bowl itself is simple, shaped from earth and hardened by fire long ago. Its surface is smooth but not perfectly even, a reminder that it was made by careful hands rather than machines. In cottages like this one, most objects are handmade. Each bowl, spoon and cup carries the quiet history of the person who shaped it. The wooden table receives another bowl, then another. 3 simple bowls rest side by side now, ready for the warm meal. The fire crackles softly again as one of the logs settles deeper into the glowing coals. A small burst of sparks lifts into the air for a moment before fading away. The sound is gentle, almost like a quiet whisper within the room. Outside, the night has grown darker. The last faint colour of the sunset has disappeared beyond the hills, leaving the sky filled with soft starlight. The village paths are nearly silent now. Most doors have closed. Most candles burn quietly behind wooden windows. Only the breeze continues to wander slowly through the narrow lanes. Back inside the cottage, the soup is finally ready. The pot is lifted carefully from its hook above the fire and placed on a thick cloth upon the table. Steam rises slowly from the surface, curling into the air before disappearing into the warm room. The wooden spoon dips once more into the pot. Then the first bowl is filled. The warm broth pours gently into the clay bowl, carrying with it the soft vegetables and fragrant herbs that have been cooking all evening. The second bowl is filled just the same, then the third. Soon the table holds a simple but comforting meal. 3 bowls of warm soup, several slices of fresh bread, and the soft glow of a candle flickering beside them. The fire continues its quiet crackling nearby. The warmth spreads gently through the cottage walls. This is the peaceful moment many villagers look forward to each evening, a moment to sit, to eat slowly, to rest tired hands, and to let the calm of the night settle in. For now, the cottage remains quiet, wrapped in the gentle light of fire and candle, and the simple evening meal is ready to begin. A quiet supper by candlelight. The small wooden table in the cottage now holds the simple evening meal, and the warm scent of soup and fresh bread fills the gentle air of the room. The fire in the hearth continues to glow softly, its light dancing across the wooden beams above and casting calm, shifting shadows along the walls. This is the peaceful hour when the long day truly comes to an end. The bowls of soup rest quietly on the table, thin curls of steam still rising slowly from their surface. The warmth of the meal spreads through the small room, mixing with the comforting scent of wood smoke from the hearth. A hand reaches for the first bowl, lifting it slowly and carefully. The clay bowl feels warm, but not too hot, just enough to bring comfort to tired hands after a long day of work. The wooden spoon dips gently into the soup. For a moment the surface of the broth ripples softly, catching the golden light from the candle beside the table. Then the first quiet spoonful is taken. The meal is simple but satisfying. The vegetables have softened perfectly in the broth, and the herbs gathered from the small garden beside the cottage have added a gentle flavour. Meals like this one have been shared in cottages throughout the village for many generations. There is something deeply calming about this quiet routine. The slow cooking, the warm bowls, the peaceful moment of rest after a day filled with work beneath the open sky. Beside the bowls, the slices of bread wait patiently on the wooden board. One piece is lifted now, its crust firm but pleasant beneath careful fingers. The bread tears softly as a small piece is broken away. That piece is dipped gently into the soup, soaking up the warm broth before being eaten slowly. There is no rush here. Each bite is taken calmly, each moment allowed to pass at its own quiet pace. The candle on the table flickers once again, bending slightly as a faint draught moves through the room. The flame stretches, then steadies itself once more. Its soft glow reflects along the surface of the clay bowls and the smooth grain of the wooden table. Across the room, the fire shifts quietly in the hearth. One of the logs settles deeper into the glowing embers with a soft crackle. The sound blends gently with the calm silence of the cottage. Outside, the night continues to grow deeper. The sky above the village is now filled with countless stars, shining softly in the cool darkness. The moon has climbed a little higher above the trees at the edge of the fields, spreading pale silver light across the rooftops and narrow paths below. Most of the village is resting now. The doors of the cottages are closed. The animals have settled into their quiet corners of barns and coops. Only the soft wind continues to move through the trees and across the open fields. From far away, the faint hoot of an owl drifts across the countryside once more. It echoes briefly through the night, then disappears again into silence. Inside the cottage, however, the warmth of the evening meal continues. Another spoonful of soup is taken. Another small piece of bread is dipped gently into the bowl. The calm rhythm of eating becomes almost meditative. Spoon lifting, bread breaking, soup warming tired hands and stomach. The simple act of sharing food brings a quiet sense of peace to the small home. In medieval villages like this one, meals are more than just nourishment. They're a moment to pause, a moment to breathe, a moment to let the body and mind rest after a day spent working with the land. The candle burns steadily now, its small pool of melted wax slowly growing at the base of the wick. The flame glows softly, illuminating the quiet scene within the cottage. The wooden walls, the sturdy beams above, the calm table with its simple meal, and the warm glow of the fire continuing to flicker beside it all. Slowly, the bowls begin to empty. The soup has warmed the room and those within it. The bread has been shared and enjoyed. The simple supper is nearing its gentle end, but the evening itself is far from over. Soon, the bowls will be cleared, the fire will burn a little lower, and the quiet routines of the night will continue within this peaceful medieval cottage. For now, though, the calm moment of supper remains. The candle glows softly, the fire crackles gently, and the peaceful rhythm of the village night continues outside the small wooden walls. After the supper, the last spoonfuls of soup are taken slowly, and the warmth of the simple meal lingers gently within the small cottage. The clay bowls now sit nearly empty on the wooden table, their sides still holding a little warmth from the broth that filled them only moments ago. The candle beside the table continues to burn with a calm and steady flame. Its soft golden light spreads across the room, touching the surface of the table, the wooden bench, and the quiet beams above. For a few peaceful moments, nothing moves very much at all. The fire in the hearth crackles softly, sending a gentle glow across the stone and wood of the cottage walls. A log shifts slowly within the embers, settling deeper into the warmth of the coals. Tiny sparks rise briefly into the air, glowing like small orange stars before fading away. Outside the cottage, the village night has grown calm and still. The narrow dirt path that runs past the cottage is empty now. No carts roll across it, no footsteps pass by. Only the quiet breeze continues to move gently through the village. It brushes softly against the wooden shutters of the nearby homes. rustles through the tall grass beyond the cottages, and disappears again into the peaceful darkness of the fields. Inside the cottage, the quiet routine of the evening continues. One of the clay bowls is lifted carefully from the table and carried toward a small wooden basin near the corner of the room. The basin holds cool water drawn earlier from the village well. The bowl is lowered gently into the water. There is a soft splash, followed by the quiet movement of water as the bowl is rinsed clean. The sound is calm and simple. Water moving slowly, clay touching wood. Nothing loud, nothing hurried. Soon the second bowl joins the first, then the third, each one washed carefully before being placed upside down on a thick cloth beside the basin. Nearby, the wooden spoon is rinsed as well. Its smooth handle glistens briefly in the candlelight before being set beside the bowls. The small tasks of the evening are never rushed. They unfold slowly, gently, just as they have done every night in this cottage for many years. Back at the table, the crumbs of bread are brushed away with calm, careful movements. They fall softly onto the wooden floor where they will later be gathered and carried outside. The loaf of bread itself is wrapped in a piece of cloth and placed upon the small shelf against the wall. It will still be fresh in the morning. The candle flickers slightly again as the breeze finds its way through a small gap near the door. The flame bends gently, then steadies once more. Across the room, the fire has begun to burn lower. The bright flames of earlier have softened into glowing coals that pulse quietly with warmth. The light they give is softer now, deeper and more peaceful. The warmth from the hearth still fills the cottage, but the room has grown calmer. The long day has ended, the meal has been shared, and the quiet comfort of the evening is settling gently into every corner of the small home. Outside, the moon has risen higher into the sky. Its pale silver light touches the rooftops of the village cottages and stretches softly across the open fields beyond. The trees at the edge of the village sway slowly beneath the cool night breeze. Somewhere far away, the owl calls again, a soft hollow sound drifting through the stillness of the countryside. It echoes once across the fields, then fades into the night. Back inside the cottage, the small tasks of cleaning and settling down are nearly finished. The bowls rest quietly beside the basin. The table stands empty once more. The loaf of bread waits patiently on its shelf, and the warm glow of the hearth continues to fill the room with calm light. Now the cottage returns to a deeper silence, the kind of silence that comes after a long day of work, when the body is tired but content. The fire breathes slowly, the candle glows softly, and the peaceful rhythm of the medieval night continues just outside the wooden walls. Soon the evening will move into its final quiet hours, but for now, the small cottage rests in this gentle moment of calm, where everything is warm, still, and perfectly at peace. The quiet hours after supper. The small cottage has grown even quieter now that the evening meal is finished. The wooden table stands clean once again, the clay bowls resting neatly beside the basin where they were washed only a short while ago. The loaf of bread sits safely wrapped upon the shelf, waiting for the next day. The calm rhythm of the night has begun to settle more deeply over the cottage. Near the hearth, the fire burns lower than before. The tall flames of earlier have softened into glowing embers that pulse gently with warmth. Every so often a small flame rises briefly between the pieces of wood before fading again. The sound of the fire is soft and steady, a gentle crackle, a quiet shifting of wood, a faint pop as a small piece settles deeper into the glowing coals. These are the quiet sounds that fill the cottage now. Outside, the village has almost completely fallen asleep. The narrow paths that run between the cottages are empty beneath the pale light of the moon. The wooden doors of each home are closed, and behind those doors families are resting after their long days of work. Only the wind moves through the village now. It drifts slowly along the rooftops, brushes against the shutters, and slips quietly through the branches of the tall trees near the edge of the fields. From time to time, the wind carries with it the faint scent of smoke from distant chimneys where fires continue to burn softly through the night. Inside the cottage, a small candle still glows on the table. Its flame is smaller now than it was earlier, and the melted wax has formed a small pool around the base of the wick. The candlelight flickers gently against the wooden walls, creating long, slow shadows that stretch and shift across the room. Near the fire, a wooden chair is pulled slightly closer to the hearth. This is the comfortable place to sit during the quiet evening hours. The warmth of the embers reaches out from the stone hearth, touching the chair and the floor around it. It is a calm and familiar warmth, the kind that slowly relaxes tired muscles after a long day of walking and working beneath the open sky. Nearby, the basket of wool that rested earlier in the corner of the room has been brought closer to the firelight. Inside the basket, the soft wool waits patiently to be spun into thread. This is the kind of work often done during the quiet hours of the evening. The hands are no longer busy with the heavy tasks of the fields. Instead, they move slowly and carefully, working with smaller tools and softer materials. The spinning spindle is lifted once again. The thin wooden shaft rests lightly between the fingers as a small bundle of wool is drawn gently into a strand. Then the spindle begins to turn. Round and round it spins, slowly twisting the fibres together into a long and steady thread. The motion is calm and repetitive. The spindle turns, the wool stretches, the thread grows longer. Each movement is gentle and patient. There is no need to hurry. The quiet spinning continues beside the warm glow of the hearth. The fire crackles softly nearby, adding its steady rhythm to the peaceful moment. Outside the cottage window, the moonlight spreads across the village like a pale blanket of silver light. The rooftops shine faintly beneath it. The fields beyond the cottages stretch wide and calm beneath the star-filled sky. Occasionally, the sound of an animal moving in a distant barn drifts through the night air. A horse shifting its weight, a cow settling quietly into the straw. But these sounds are far away, soft and harmless, part of the gentle life of the village. Back inside the cottage, the spindle continues its slow turning. The thread grows longer with each careful twist. Soon, it will be wound neatly onto the spindle and set aside for weaving at another time. These small tasks fill the evening with peaceful purpose. They keep the hands moving, but allow the mind to rest. The candle flickers again, its flame bending slightly before rising straight once more. The fire breathes softly in the hearth. The wooden beams above hold the quiet roof steady over the calm home, and the cottage settles deeper into the peaceful rhythm of the medieval night. This is the gentle hour between work and sleep, when the world grows quieter, slower, and wonderfully still. The fire burning low, the quiet work beside the hearth continues for a while longer, each slow movement blending gently into the peaceful rhythm of the night. The spindle turns calmly between careful fingers, drawing the soft wool into a thin and steady thread. The motion is simple and familiar, something that has been practiced many evenings before. Round and round the spindle moves. The wool stretches softly. The thread grows longer. Each small twist adds another quiet moment to the passing evening. Nearby, the fire in the hearth has begun to settle even further. The larger flames that once danced brightly above the logs have now softened into deep glowing embers. Their colour shifts slowly between shades of orange and red. like tiny pieces of sunset resting inside the hearth. Every now and then, a faint flame rises gently from between the coals, flickering for a brief moment before fading again. The sound of the fire is softer now, only a quiet crackle, a gentle sigh of warm air, and the occasional small pop as a piece of wood adjusts within the heat. The warmth still spreads across the cottage floor, touching the wooden chair, the nearby basket of wool, and the smooth planks beneath. It is a comforting warmth, not too strong, just enough to make the room feel safe and peaceful. The candle on the table burns lower as well. Its flame is smaller now, but it still glows steadily, sending its soft golden light across the room. The melted wax has slowly gathered along the sides of the candle, forming quiet shapes that shine faintly in the flickering light. The shadows on the walls grow longer and slower as the evening continues. Across the cottage, the wooden beams and simple shelves stand quietly where they have stood for many years. Nothing moves very quickly here. Everything exists at the gentle pace of the village night. Outside, the moon has climbed higher into the sky. Its pale silver light spreads across the rooftops and fields, touching the quiet paths that run between the cottages. The village is deeply still now. Most of the candles inside the homes have been blown out. Most of the fires have burned low. The villagers rest peacefully behind their wooden doors, wrapped in blankets and the calm silence of the countryside. The only sounds that travel through the night are the quiet ones, the rustling of leaves in the trees, the distant hoot of an owl calling from the dark forest beyond the fields, and sometimes the soft creak of wood as a barn door shifts slightly in the breeze. Back inside the cottage, the spinning spindle slows. The thread has grown long and even now carefully wound around the wooden shaft. The final twist is made gently, securing the thread in place. Then the spindle is lowered slowly into the basket beside the remaining wool. The small task is finished for tonight. The hands that worked patiently through the evening now rest quietly for a moment. The warmth of the fire touches the air around them. The calm glow of the candle flickers gently nearby. It is a peaceful pause, the kind of pause that allows the body to feel the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived. There is no hurry to move on to the next moment. In cottages like this one, evenings unfold slowly. Each task has its time. Each moment is allowed to pass without rushing. The fire breathes softly within the hearth. The candle continues its steady glow, and outside the night stretches wide and calm beneath the watchful stars. Soon the cottage will prepare for sleep. The candle will be extinguished. The last embers will fade slowly into darkness. But for now the room remains warm and peaceful, a small island of gentle light within the quiet medieval night, and the calm rhythm of the village continues, slow, steady, and wonderfully still. Preparing the cottage for the night. The quiet warmth of the cottage continues to linger as the evening slowly moves closer to night. The spinning work has been finished, and the basket of wool rests peacefully once again in its corner near the wall. The spindle lies carefully on top of the soft fibres, ready for another calm evening in the future. For a few moments the room remains still. The fire glows softly within the hearth, and the candle on the table flickers with a gentle and patient flame. Outside, the village is wrapped in deep silence. The narrow paths between the cottages are empty beneath the pale moonlight, and the fields beyond the village stretch quietly under a sky filled with distant stars. Inside the cottage, however, there are still a few small tasks to complete before sleep can arrive. The wooden chair beside the hearth is pushed slowly back toward the table. Its legs slide softly across the wooden floor with a quiet scraping sound. Not loud, just a gentle movement within the peaceful room. The basket of wool is lifted carefully and placed back into its usual place near the shelf. Everything inside the cottage has its own spot, its own quiet place where it belongs. This simple order keeps the home calm and comfortable. Nearby, the clay bowls that were washed earlier have now dried completely. One by one, they are lifted from the cloth beside the basin and placed neatly onto the wooden shelf. The bowls sit side by side, their smooth surfaces catching the faint glow of the candlelight. Next to them rests the wooden spoon, its handle worn smooth from many years of stirring soups and stews above the fire. The cottage may be small, but every object inside it carries quiet history. Each bowl, each spoon, each wooden beam above, all of them have shared in countless evenings just like this one. The table itself is given one final gentle wipe with a soft cloth. Though only a few crumbs had fallen earlier, the habit of leaving the table clean at night has been practiced here for generations. The cloth moves slowly across the surface of the wood. Then it is folded neatly and placed beside the basin. The candle flame bends again as a faint draught moves through the room. It sways gently for a moment before rising straight once more. Across the cottage, the fire in the hearth has grown quieter. The embers glow softly now, their light deeper and calmer than before. One small log still rests above the coals, slowly turning darker as the heat continues its quiet work. A metal poker leaning beside the hearth is lifted carefully. With a slow movement, the embers are nudged gently together. The coals shift slightly, glowing brighter for a moment as fresh warmth moves through them. This small action helps the fire last longer through the night. Even as sleep approaches, the fire will continue to give a little warmth to the cottage walls. The poker is returned to its place beside the hearth. The hands that held it rest quietly once again. Outside, the wind moves slowly through the village. It brushes across the rooftops and slips through the branches of the tall trees that stand beyond the fields. The leaves rustle softly in the darkness. Somewhere far away, the owl calls once more. Its deep, hollow sound echoes across the countryside before fading into the distance. Inside the cottage, the final moments of the evening routine continue. The wooden door is checked carefully to make sure it is closed tight against the cool night air. The latch rests securely in place. The small window beside the door is also gently adjusted. Its wooden shutter is pulled closed, leaving only a thin line of moonlight peeking through the edges. The room grows a little dimmer now. Only the candle and the glowing embers remain to light the cottage. The warmth of the day is fading slowly from tired muscles. The quiet tasks of the evening are finished. Everything inside the cottage is now prepared for rest. The bowls are put away. The table is clean. The wool basket rests peacefully in its corner. And the fire glows gently within the hearth. Soon the candle will be blown out and the cottage will slip into darkness along with the rest of the sleeping village. But for now, the soft flame still burns, steady and calm, holding back the quiet night for just a little while longer. The cottage waits peacefully in this gentle moment, where the last small tasks of the day have been completed, and the calm promise of sleep is slowly drawing near. The village under moonlight. With the final evening tasks finished, the small cottage settles into a deeper calm. Inside, the warm glow of the fire and the soft candlelight continue to flicker gently against the wooden walls. Outside, however, the village has already slipped fully into the quiet embrace of the night. The moon now hangs high above the countryside. Its pale silver light spreads softly across the rooftops of the village cottages, touching the wooden shingles and thatched roofs with a faint and peaceful glow. The narrow dirt paths that wind through the village appear almost dreamlike beneath this gentle light. During the day, these paths are busy with footsteps, carts, and the quiet movements of daily life, but tonight they're empty, still, peaceful. The wind moves slowly across the open fields, bending the tall grass in soft waves that roll gently through the darkness. The fields stretch wide beyond the village, where farmers spent the long daylight hours tending crops and caring for animals. Now the land rests quietly beneath the sky. The stars above shine clearly, undisturbed by city lights or noise. Hundreds of tiny points of light fill the dark blue sky, some bright and steady, others faint and distant. For the people of the village, these stars are familiar companions. They guide travellers along country roads. They mark the passing of the seasons, and on calm nights like this one, they simply shine peacefully above the sleeping land. Near the centre of the village stands the old stone church. Its tall bell tower rises gently above the nearby cottages, casting a long shadow across the quiet ground. The wooden door of the church remains closed, and the bell inside the tower rests silently after its final chime earlier in the evening. The building itself seems almost asleep. The stone walls hold the cool night air, while the roof above reflects the pale moonlight. Beside the church lies the village well. The circular stone wall that surrounds it has been worn smooth by countless hands and buckets over many years. Tonight, however, the well is silent. The rope hangs still. The wooden bucket rests quietly against the stone. Only the wind occasionally brushes against it, causing the rope to sway slightly before becoming still once again. At the far end of the village, a small barn stands beside a fenced pasture. Inside, the animals have settled down for the night. A horse shifts gently in its stall, its slow breathing calm and steady. Nearby, a cow moves slightly in the straw, adjusting its weight before becoming still again. These soft movements are the only signs of life in the quiet barn. The animals, like the villagers, are resting after the long hours of daylight work. Back at the small cottage where our story began, the warm glow of the hearth still shines faintly through the thin edges of the shuttered window. Inside, the embers of the fire continue to breathe slowly within the stone hearth. The candle on the table burns lower with each passing moment. Its flame is small now, but steady. Soon, it too will fade into darkness. The peaceful cottage sits quietly along the village path, surrounded by the calm stillness of the medieval countryside. The wind brushes softly along the wooden walls. The roof creaks gently as the night air cools the timber beams, but inside the cottage, everything remains warm and safe. The tasks of the day have been finished. The meal has been shared. The quiet work of the evening has come to an end. Now the only thing left is rest. The village itself seems to breathe slowly beneath the moonlight. The trees sway gently. The stars shine steadily. The open fields stretch far into the distance, calm and silent beneath the wide sky. For centuries, nights like this have come and gone in villages just like this one. Evenings filled with simple meals, quiet work, and peaceful moments beside a warm fire. And as the candle inside the cottage continues to burn softly, the medieval village rests beneath the watchful glow of the moon, calm, quiet, and perfectly at peace. The last light of the evening. Inside the small cottage, the quiet warmth of the evening lingers gently in the air. The candle on the wooden table has burned lower now, its once tall flame reduced to a small and steady glow. The melted wax has slowly gathered along the sides, forming soft curves that catch the faint light. Nearby, the fire in the hearth continues its slow and patient fading. The bright flames that once danced above the logs earlier in the evening have now disappeared, leaving behind a bed of glowing embers. These embers pulse softly with warmth. Every few moments a tiny flicker of flame rises briefly between them, then disappears again. The sound of the fire is quieter now than it has been all evening. Only the faint crackle of cooling wood and the gentle sigh of warm air rising through the chimney. The room itself feels peaceful and still. The wooden table stands clean and empty in the centre of the cottage. The bowls have been returned to the shelf. The cloth beside the basin rests folded neatly, and the basket of wool waits quietly in its corner, its spinning work finished for the day. Everything inside the cottage has settled into its place. Outside the window, the moonlight spreads softly across the quiet village. Though the wooden shutter is mostly closed, a thin line of pale silver light slips gently through the small gaps between the boards. It falls softly across the floor, creating a narrow ribbon of light that stretches toward the centre of the room. Beyond the cottage walls, the night air has grown cooler. The breeze moves slowly through the village streets, brushing against the rooftops and wandering quietly between the cottages. The fields surrounding the village lie silent beneath a star-filled sky. The crops that filled the land with life during the day now rest beneath the calm darkness. From time to time, the distant call of an owl echoes across the countryside. Its low, hollow sound travels through the night air before fading once again into silence. Inside the cottage, however, the calm warmth continues to hold the room in gentle comfort. The candle flickers slightly as the air moves softly through the house. The flame bends for a moment, then rises straight once again. A hand reaches slowly toward the candle. For a moment the small flame reflects gently in tired eyes that have worked through the long hours of the day. The quiet routine of the evening is nearly complete. Soon the candle will be extinguished. Soon the cottage will fall into darkness. But before that moment arrives, there is a peaceful pause, the kind of pause that comes at the end of a long and honest day. The warmth of the fire touches the air. The faint scent of wood smoke lingers softly in the room. The wooden beams above rest quietly, holding the roof steady against the cool night sky. Everything feels calm. Everything feels still. The peaceful rhythm of the village night surrounds the cottage like a quiet blanket. For centuries, evenings in small homes like this one have followed the same gentle pattern. Work beneath the sun, simple meals shared beside the fire, quiet tasks in the soft glow of candlelight, and finally, the slow arrival of sleep. The candle flame trembles once more as the air shifts lightly through the room. The embers in the hearth glow softly, their warmth fading little by little. Outside, the moon continues its silent journey across the sky. The stars shine quietly above the sleeping village, and inside the small cottage, the final light of the evening prepares to fade, leaving the home wrapped in the peaceful darkness of the medieval night. The candle goes out. The small cottage rests quietly in the calm hours of the night. The candle on the wooden table burns lower with each passing moment. Its tiny flame flickers gently, sending soft waves of golden light across the walls and ceiling. The melted wax has nearly reached the bottom of the candle now. Soon there will be no flame left at all. For a moment, the room remains peaceful and still, as if the cottage itself is taking a slow breath before sleep. The embers in the hearth continue to glow softly. Their warm orange light spreads faintly across the stone and wooden floor nearby. Though the fire is nearly finished for the night, the remaining coals still hold a quiet warmth. They breathe slowly, glowing brighter for a moment, then dimming again. Outside the cottage, the village remains wrapped in deep silence. The narrow path that passes by the door is empty beneath the moonlight. The rooftops shine faintly in the pale silver glow, and the trees at the edge of the village sway slowly in the cool night breeze. The wind moves gently across the fields. It passes through the tall grass, carrying with it the soft scent of earth and distant wood smoke. Far away, the owl calls once again. Its deep, hollow voice drifts through the darkness before fading quietly into the night. Back inside the cottage, the final moment of light approaches. A hand moves slowly toward the candle. The small flame reflects softly in the smooth surface of the wooden table. For a brief moment, the light wavers, dancing gently in the still air. Then, with a quiet breath, the flame is blown out. The candle's glow disappears instantly. For a moment, a thin ribbon of smoke rises from the blackened wick, curling slowly upward before fading into the darkness. The room grows dim. Only the faint red glow of the embers remains within the hearth. The gentle light spreads softly across the nearby stones, barely touching the edges of the room. The cottage has now entered its final quiet stage of the night. Without the candlelight, the shadows deepen. The wooden beams above disappear into the darkness. The simple furniture rests silently in its place. But the darkness here is not cold or frightening. It is calm, peaceful, the kind of darkness that invites rest. The embers continue their slow breathing inside the hearth. Occasionally one glows a little brighter, revealing the faint outline of the fireplace stones before dimming once more. Outside the shuttered window, the moon continues to shine across the sleeping village. A small line of silver light slips gently through the edges of the wooden shutter, touching the floor like a soft thread of moonlight. The breeze brushes lightly against the cottage walls. The roof creaks quietly as the night air cools the wooden beams. These are the soft sounds of a home resting through the night. In the nearby barns, the animals sleep quietly. A horse shifts gently in its stall. A cow breathes slowly in the straw. Even the chickens remain still within their wooden coop. The entire village has surrendered to the calm of sleep. Inside the cottage, the last warmth of the fire slowly begins to fade. The glowing embers grow darker little by little. The quiet, crackling sound that once filled the hearth is now gone. Only silence remains. The small home feels wrapped in the peaceful stillness of the countryside. The long day has ended. The evening routines have been completed. The fire has burned low. The candle has gone out. And now the medieval cottage rests quietly beneath the watchful sky. Outside, the stars continue to shine above the fields and rooftops. The moon drifts slowly across the heavens, and the entire village sleeps peacefully, surrounded by the calm rhythm of the night. The deep quiet of midnight. The cottage is now wrapped in complete darkness, with only the faintest glow from the last remaining embers in the hearth. The room that once held the warm light of the candle and the gentle flicker of the fire has grown still and calm. The wooden table rests silently in the centre of the cottage. The shelves along the wall hold their clay bowls and simple cups, now hidden in the shadows. The basket of wool sits quietly in its corner, untouched until another peaceful evening arrives. Everything inside the cottage has settled into rest. The embers in the hearth glow softly, their colour now a deep red that fades slowly with each passing moment. Occasionally one ember brightens for a brief second, revealing the outline of the stone fireplace before dimming once again. The warmth that once filled the room is slowly fading, leaving behind the cool comfort of the night air. But the cottage remains safe and peaceful. Outside, the village lies under the calm watch of the midnight sky. The moon has travelled higher now, casting a gentle silver light across the rooftops and quiet paths. The narrow roads between the cottages are empty, their dusty surfaces glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. The old stone church stands silently at the centre of the village, its bell tower rising quietly toward the stars. The bell inside rests peacefully, waiting for the next morning when it will ring once again to greet the new day. The village well nearby is still and quiet. The rope hangs motionless beside the stone wall. The wooden bucket rests where it was left earlier in the evening. Only the soft breeze moves through the open space around it. Beyond the cottages, the fields stretch far into the distance. The crops sway gently beneath the cool wind that drifts across the land. Each movement is slow and quiet, like waves passing through the sea of grass. The trees at the edge of the fields whisper softly as their leaves rustle together. Somewhere deep within those trees, the owl calls again. Its low, echoing voice travels through the night air before fading away into the peaceful darkness. Back inside the cottage, the deep quiet of midnight continues. The wooden beams above hold the roof steady against the cool sky. Soon even these embers will fade completely. But for now, they continue their slow and patient glow, a time when everything slows down, a time when the land itself seems to breathe softly beneath the night sky, and inside the small medieval cottage, the calm silence of midnight continues, deep, steady, and wonderfully peaceful. The quiet passing of the night. As midnight slowly passes, the small cottage remains wrapped in the deep stillness of the night. Inside the darkened room, the final embers in the hearth glow faintly, like tiny stars resting within the stone fireplace. Their colour is softer now, a deep red fading slowly toward black. The warmth that once filled the cottage has almost disappeared, leaving behind the cool and gentle air of the countryside night. The wooden table stands quietly in the centre of the room. The shelves along the wall hold their bowls and cups, hidden now in the shadows that fill the cottage. The basket of wool remains tucked in its corner, resting patiently until another calm evening brings the quiet work of spinning once again. Everything in the cottage is still, everything rests. Outside, the village sleeps peacefully beneath the wide sky. The moon has begun its slow journey toward the western horizon, drifting silently above the rooftops of the cottages. Its pale light continues to shine across the narrow paths that wind through the village. During the day, these paths are full of life. Farmers walk along them with tools over their shoulders. Children run and play near the well. Carts roll slowly across the dusty ground. But now the paths are empty. They rest quietly beneath the moonlight, untouched by footsteps. The old stone church stands calmly at the centre of the village. Its bell tower stretches upward toward the sky, silhouetted against the stars. The bell inside remains silent for now, waiting patiently for the morning when it will once again mark the beginning of a new day. Beside the church, the stone well sits quietly in the moonlight. The rope and wooden bucket hang motionless. The water deep below reflects the faint shimmer of the sky far above. Only the soft breeze moves through the village square. It drifts slowly between the cottages, brushing gently against wooden shutters and doors. Sometimes the wind carries the faint rustle of leaves from the trees beyond the village. Sometimes it carries nothing at all. The countryside itself is resting. Beyond the village, the fields stretch wide beneath the stars. The crops move gently as the night wind passes over them. Each movement is slow and soft, like the calm breathing of the land. At the far edge of the fields, the dark outline of the forest rises against the sky. The tall trees stand close together, their branches whispering quietly whenever the wind passes through. Somewhere within that forest, the owl glides silently through the night air. Its wings move without sound as it drifts between the trees, watching the quiet world below. Back in the village, the barns and animal shelters are still. Inside one of the barns, a horse shifts slightly in its stall before becoming still again. A cow breathes slowly in the straw. The animals sleep peacefully, their bodies resting after the long hours of the day. The entire village shares this quiet moment together. Every cottage rests, every path is empty, every lantern and candle has long since been extinguished. Only the moon and the stars remain awake in the sky above. Inside the small cottage where our story began, the last embers in the hearth are growing darker now. Their glow is faint, barely lighting the stones that hold them. Occasionally one ember brightens for just a moment, revealing the gentle outline of the fireplace before fading again. The room itself is filled with soft darkness, but it is a comforting darkness, the kind that belongs to peaceful homes and sleeping villages. The wooden beams above creak very softly as the night air cools the roof. The walls remain strong and quiet, protecting the small home from the breeze outside. The floorboards rest silently beneath the calm room. Time passes slowly during these deep night hours. There are no clocks ticking loudly, no voices breaking the silence, only the steady movement of the moon across the sky and the soft whisper of wind moving through the countryside. Little by little, the moon drifts lower. The stars shift gently across the dark blue sky. The night continues its calm and patient journey toward morning, and inside the peaceful cottage, the last embers of the hearth continue their slow fading. As the quiet passing of the night carries the sleeping village gently toward the coming dawn, the slow hours before dawn. The night continues its quiet journey across the sky, and the small medieval village remains wrapped in deep, peaceful sleep. Inside the cottage, the final embers in the hearth have grown very faint now. What was once a warm bed of glowing coals has become only a few scattered points of red light resting softly within the ashes. From time to time, one of those embers glows a little brighter for a moment, then slowly fades again. The warmth of the fire has almost disappeared, leaving the cottage filled with the cool and gentle air of the late night. The room itself is still and calm. The wooden table rests quietly where it stood during the evening meal. The shelf along the wall holds the clay bowls and cups that were carefully washed earlier. The basket of wool remains in its corner, waiting patiently for another evening when hands will once again spin the soft fibres into thread. Everything is quiet. Everything is resting. Outside, the village paths remain empty beneath the pale moonlight. The cottages stand peacefully along the narrow roads, their wooden doors closed and their windows dark. Behind those walls, the villagers sleep beneath blankets and thick wool coverings, their bodies resting after the work of the day. The moon has moved lower in the sky now. It hangs quietly above the distant hills, its silver light stretching across the rooftops and fields like a soft blanket. The stars still shine clearly overhead. Without the glow of lanterns or the noise of busy streets, the sky above the village appears wide and endless. Some of the stars seem bright and steady. Others shimmer faintly, blinking gently in the cool air of the night. Beyond the village, the open fields lie calm beneath the sky. The tall grass moves softly whenever the breeze passes through, bending gently before rising again. The land itself seems to breathe slowly in the quiet darkness. From the distant forest the owl calls once more. Its voice is deep and hollow, echoing softly through the night air before disappearing into the stillness. Back inside the cottage, the darkness has grown deeper. The embers in the hearth have almost faded completely. Their faint glow barely reaches the edges of the fireplace stones now. Soon they too will disappear, leaving the hearth cold until another fire is built in the morning. The wooden beams above remain steady and silent. Occasionally, the roof lets out a quiet creak as the night air cools the old timber. These small sounds are natural for a home that has stood through many seasons. They are gentle reminders that the cottage itself is part of the living world around it. Outside, the breeze continues to move slowly across the village. It brushes lightly against the wooden shutters and slips through the branches of the tall trees near the fields. The leaves whisper softly together before settling back into silence. The barns at the edge of the village remain peaceful. Inside one of them, a horse shifts its weight slightly before becoming still again. The animals sleep deeply during these late hours of the night. For them, morning will come soon enough. Back in the cottage, the darkness remains calm and comforting. The simple furniture rests quietly in its place. The wooden floor holds the faint memory of warmth from the fire that burned earlier in the evening, and the walls continue to shelter the small home from the cool wind outside. These slow hours before dawn are the quietest moments of the entire night. Most creatures are resting, most sounds have faded away. Even the wind moves more gently now, as if the world itself is preparing for the coming sunrise. The moon continues to sink lower toward the horizon. Soon it will disappear behind the hills, leaving the sky darker for a short while before the first light of morning arrives. But that moment has not come yet. For now, the medieval village remains asleep. The fields rest quietly beneath the stars. The trees stand still in the calm air, and the small cottage at the edge of the village continues to sleep peacefully, surrounded by the slow and gentle rhythm of the countryside night. The quiet hours before dawn. As the night continues its slow journey across the sky, the peaceful village remains wrapped in deep silence. These are the quiet hours before dawn, the calmest moments of the entire night. Inside the small cottage, darkness rests gently in every corner of the room. The embers in the hearth have now faded almost completely, leaving only a faint memory of the fire that warmed the cottage earlier in the evening. The stone fireplace stands still and quiet. The wooden table, the chairs and the small shelf along the wall remain exactly where they were left, resting peacefully in the cool night air. Nothing moves inside the cottage now. Everything sleeps. Outside, the moon has begun to lower slowly toward the distant hills. Its pale silver light still touches the rooftops of the village cottages, but the glow has softened as the long night moves closer to morning. The narrow paths between the homes remain empty beneath the fading moonlight. During the day, these paths are filled with life, with footsteps and carts and quiet conversations, but now they are calm and untouched. The village rests deeply. The old stone church stands silent beneath the sky. Its bell tower rises into the darkness, the bell inside waiting patiently for the moment when it will greet the coming dawn. Beside the church, the stone well continues to sit quietly in the centre of the village. The wooden bucket hangs motionless from its rope. The cool water far below reflects the last faint glow of the moon. The wind has grown softer now. Earlier in the night it wandered gently through the trees and fields. But during these final hours before morning the air often becomes still. The land itself seems to pause, as if resting before the arrival of a new day. Beyond the cottages the wide fields stretch peacefully beneath the stars. The crops move only slightly in the faint breeze. Their soft rustling is almost too quiet to hear. The forest at the edge of the field stands dark and steady against the horizon. Its tall trees hold the silence of the night within their branches. Somewhere deep among those trees the owl makes its final call of the night. The sound travels across the fields, low and hollow, before fading gently into the distance. Soon even the owl will rest. Inside the barns at the edge of the village, the animals continue their quiet sleep. A horse breathes slowly in its stall. A cow shifts softly in the straw before settling once again. The chickens remain still upon their wooden roosts. Everything in the village shares the calm rhythm of the night. Back inside the cottage, the darkness remains peaceful and safe. The wooden beams above hold the roof firmly in place, just as they have done through many seasons. The floorboards lie quiet beneath the empty room. The basket of wool sits untouched in its corner. The clay bowls rest neatly upon their shelf. Each object waits patiently for the return of morning light. These gentle hours before dawn are often the most peaceful of all. The busy sounds of the day are far away. The warmth of evening fires has faded, and the first stirrings of morning have not yet begun. It is a moment when the entire world seems to pause. The moon continues its slow descent toward the horizon. The stars shift slightly across the sky, and somewhere far beyond the hills, the first faint signs of dawn are quietly preparing to arrive. But for now, the village remains asleep. The cottages rest beneath the fading moonlight. The fields lie calm beneath the sky, and the small medieval cottage stands peacefully in the darkness, waiting gently for the first soft light of morning. The first hints of morning. The quiet hours before dawn continue to stretch gently across the countryside. For a long time it seems as though nothing changes at all. The village remains still, the cottage is silent, and the wide fields resting beneath the fading stars. But slowly, almost too slowly to notice at first, the night begins to shift. Far beyond the distant hills, where the sky meets the land, a faint softness begins to appear along the horizon. It is not yet light, not truly, but the darkness there grows just a little thinner, a little less deep than before. The moon, which has watched peacefully over the village throughout the long night, now drifts lower toward the horizon. Its pale glow becomes softer as it approaches the edge of the world. Soon it will disappear behind the hills, and with its quiet departure, the final hours of night will begin to fade. Inside the small cottage, the darkness still fills the room. The fireplace holds only cool grey ash now, the last embers having faded completely. The wooden table stands quietly in the centre of the cottage, its surface hidden beneath the dim shadows. The chairs remain where they were placed earlier in the evening. The basket of wool waits silently in its corner. Everything rests just as it did when the candle was blown out many hours ago. The cottage itself seems to breathe slowly within the peaceful silence. Outside, the village begins to feel the gentle approach of morning. The stars above are still bright, but their sharp sparkle has begun to soften slightly as the sky slowly prepares for daylight. The fields surrounding the village lie calm and quiet beneath the fading night. The tall grasses move only slightly in the cool air. Their soft rustling drifts across the land like a distant whisper. Along the edge of the fields, the forest stands dark against the horizon. The trees are still now. Even the wind seems to have paused in the calm moments before dawn. Deep inside the forest, the owl that called throughout the night now grows quiet. Its hunting hours are ending. Soon it will find a safe branch high among the leaves and rest until night returns once more. Back in the village, the barns remain peaceful. Inside one of them, a horse shifts gently in its stall. The soft sound of hooves touching the straw breaks the silence for a moment before everything becomes still again. The animals are beginning to sense the slow arrival of morning. Though the sun has not yet risen, the rhythm of the land quietly tells them that the night is nearly over. Above the village rooftops, the sky continues its gradual change. The deep black of midnight has softened into a dark shade of blue. Near the eastern horizon, a faint grey glow begins to spread slowly across the sky. It is the first quiet promise of a new day. The old stone church at the centre of the village stands silent as always. Its bell tower stretches upward toward the changing sky. Soon the bell will ring again to greet the morning, but for now it waits patiently in the calm before dawn. The stone well beside the church reflects the faint light of the sky above. The wooden bucket and rope hang quietly along the edge of the smooth stone wall. For many years villagers have gathered here each morning to draw fresh water for the day. Soon those footsteps will return, but not yet. The village remains mostly asleep. Back inside the cottage, the cool air of early morning has begun to replace the warmth that once filled the room. The wooden beams of the roof creak softly as they adjust to the changing temperature of the night. The floorboards remain still and quiet. Nothing stirs inside the cottage. The peaceful home waits patiently for the return of the light. Outside, the eastern sky grows brighter, little by little. The faint grey glow slowly expands across the horizon. The stars above begin to fade one by one, disappearing gently into the growing light. Soon the first birds will awaken in the trees near the village. Soon the fields will glow softly beneath the rising sun. Soon the quiet village will slowly come back to life. But for now, these final moments before sunrise remain calm and peaceful. The land rests in a gentle pause between night and day. The cottages remain still. The paths remain empty. And the small medieval cottage stands quietly in the cool air of early morning, waiting patiently for the very first light of dawn. The first hint of morning. Very slowly, almost too gently to notice at first. The night begins to change. The sky above the quiet village is still dark, and the stars continue to shine softly across the wide heavens. But far away beyond the distant hills, something new is beginning. The first faint hint of morning is quietly approaching. Inside the small cottage, the room remains peaceful and still. The fireplace now holds only cool ashes where the embers once glowed during the evening. The wooden table rests silently in the centre of the room, and the simple chairs stand where they were left the night before. Everything inside the cottage waits quietly for the return of daylight. Outside, the moon has moved lower toward the horizon. The crops stand still in the calm air, their long leaves barely moving as the breeze rests. The forest at the edge of the countryside remains dark and silent, its tall trees holding the last shadows of the night. Even the animals in the barns continue to sleep. The horse breathes slowly in the straw. The cows remain still within their stalls. The chickens rest quietly on their wooden roosts, waiting for the light that will soon wake them. Back inside the cottage, the darkness has softened just slightly. The faint grey light from the distant horizon slips quietly through the edges of the wooden shutter. It touches the floor with the gentlest glow, barely enough to reveal the quiet shape of the table and the nearby chair. Morning is still some time away, but the night has begun its slow farewell. The stars will fade one by one. The sky will grow brighter with each passing moment. And soon the peaceful medieval village will awaken once again. For now, however, the land remains calm. The cottages sleep quietly. The fields rest beneath the softening sky. And the small cottage stands peacefully in the first quiet hint of a new day. The first hint of morning slowly, almost so gently that it is difficult to notice at first. The night begins to change. The peaceful darkness that has covered the village for many hours is still deep and quiet, but somewhere far beyond the distant hills, the first faint hint of the morning is beginning to appear. Inside the small cottage, everything remains calm and still. The room rests in soft darkness, the furniture quietly waiting for the return of daylight. The hearth that once glowed with warm firelight now holds only cool grey ashes, the last embers having faded away during the silent hours of the night. The wooden table stands patiently in the centre of the room, The shelf along the wall holds its clay bowls and simple cups, each one resting exactly where it was placed the evening before. The basket of wool remains tucked quietly in its corner, untouched since the spinning work ended earlier in the night. All is peaceful, all is still. Outside the cottage walls, however, the sky has begun its slow and gentle transformation. The moon, which once shone brightly over the rooftops, now drifts closer to the western horizon. Its silver light grows softer as it slowly prepares to disappear beyond the distant hills. Above the village, the stars that fill the sky throughout the night continue to shine, but some of them are beginning to fade. One by one, the faintest stars grow dimmer as the darkness of the sky slowly begins to lighten. The change is almost invisible at first. The sky remains dark blue. The village paths remain quiet, and the cottages continue to sleep peacefully. But the night is slowly releasing its hold. In the fields beyond the village, the land rests calmly beneath the early morning sky. The tall grasses move gently as a faint breeze returns, brushing across the open ground in soft waves. The forest at the far edge of the field stands silent and dark, its tall trees rising like shadows against the horizon. Somewhere deep among those trees, the owl that watched over the night has now grown quiet. Its hunting is finished. Soon it too will rest as the day approaches. Back in the village, the barns remain calm and silent. Inside one of them, a horse shifts slightly in its stall before settling once again. The straw beneath its hooves rustles softly for a moment, then grows still. A cow breathes slowly nearby. The animals sense the coming morning even before the sun appears, but for now they remain calm and resting. The narrow paths between the cottages still lie empty beneath the fading moonlight. During the day, these paths will soon fill with life. Footsteps will pass by. Carts will roll slowly across the dusty ground. Voices will drift through the air as neighbours greet one another. But for now, the village remains wrapped in the final quiet moments of the night. The old stone church stands silently at the centre of the village. Its bell tower rises proudly toward the sky, its dark outline slowly becoming clearer as the faint light of dawn begins to grow. The bell inside the tower still rests quietly. Soon it will ring to greet the new day, but that moment has not yet arrived. Beside the church, the stone well continues to wait patiently in the village square. The rope and wooden bucket hang motionless against the worn stone wall. Deep below, the cool water reflects a faint shimmer of the brightening sky above. Back inside the small cottage, the darkness has begun to soften. Though the window shutter remains closed, a thin and delicate line of pale morning light begins to appear along its edges. It stretches gently across the wooden floor, faint but growing. The cottage itself remains peaceful. The wooden beams hold the roof steady above. The walls protect the small home from the cool morning air. The simple furniture waits quietly in the dim light. For many generations, mornings have arrived just like this in villages like this one. Slowly, softly, without hurry. The night fades little by little. The sky grows lighter with each passing moment, and the peaceful medieval village prepares gently to welcome the first true light of a brand new day. The long night is slowly beginning to change. Far beyond the quiet fields and distant hills, the first gentle hint of morning is beginning to appear. It is not bright yet, not even close to sunrise, but the deep darkness of the sky has softened slightly. A faint shade of pale grey begins to touch the far edge of the horizon. Most of the village still sleeps peacefully. Inside the small cottage, the room remains quiet and cool. The fire in the hearth has completely faded now, leaving only darkened pieces of wood resting inside the stone fireplace. The warmth of the evening fire has long since drifted away, replaced by the calm chill that often arrives just before dawn. The wooden table stands quietly in the centre of the room. The chairs remain tucked neatly beneath it. The shelves along the wall hold the clay bowls and simple cups that were washed and placed there the night before. Nothing has moved. Nothing has disturbed the peaceful order of the small home. Outside, the moon is slowly disappearing behind the distant hills. Its silver glow is fading, allowing the sky to begin its quiet transformation toward morning. The stars that once filled the heavens so brightly are becoming softer now. One by one, the faintest stars begin to fade from view. The larger stars still shine clearly for a while longer, but even they will soon disappear as the sky grows brighter. The village paths remain still and empty. The dirt road that winds between the cottages holds the pale glow of the early morning sky. Soon those paths will once again welcome footsteps. Farmers will walk toward the fields. Villagers will gather water from the well. Children will step outside their homes to greet the new day. But for now, the village remains calm. These quiet minutes before sunrise are gentle and slow. Even the wind has grown still. The trees that stand beside the fields barely move at all. Their branches rest quietly against the softening sky. In the barns near the edge of the village, the animals are still resting. A horse shifts slightly in its stall as the air begins to change. Its ears flick gently as it senses the approaching morning. Nearby, a cow breathes deeply in the straw, its calm rhythm steady and slow. Soon the animals will begin to stir, but the village is not awake yet. The moment before dawn is a peaceful pause between night and day. The forest beyond the field stands dark against the horizon, but the edges of the trees are beginning to show faint outlines as the sky grows lighter. Somewhere among the branches, the owl that watched over the night has finally gone silent. Its work is finished. The night belongs to other creatures now. A gentle hush covers the countryside. Back inside the cottage, the small line of light that slips through the edges of the wooden shutter has changed. Where the moon once cast a pale silver glow, there is now a faint grey light touching the wooden floor. It is the earlier signal that the night is ending. The room itself still rests in quiet darkness. The beams above remain hidden in shadow. The basket of wool waits patiently in its corner. The clay bowls sit peacefully upon the shelf. Everything inside the cottage remains calm and undisturbed. The long hours of night have passed slowly and gently. The quiet evening, the fading fire, the deep silence of midnight. And now, the soft arrival of morning. Outside, the sky continues its gradual transformation. The grey horizon grows a little brighter. The stars continue to fade one by one. The rooftops of the cottages are beginning to take shape in the early light. Soon the bell in the church tower will ring again to greet the new day. Soon the doors of the cottages will open. Soon the peaceful medieval village will wake and return to its simple rhythm of daily life. But for just a little while longer, the village remains suspended in this quiet moment, the moment between night and morning, the moment when the sky begins to glow, but the world is still asleep, and the small cottage stands peacefully beside the path, waiting gently for the first true light of dawn, slowly, almost quietly enough to go unnoticed. The first faint light of morning begins to appear along the distant horizon. The night that once covered the village so completely is beginning to soften. Far beyond the open fields and gentle hills, the sky is changing colour. The deep darkness of midnight slowly fades into a soft shade of blue, and along the edge of the world a pale line of silver light begins to grow. Inside the small cottage the room remains still. The wooden table, the chairs, and the quiet shelves have not moved since the night began. The hearth is dark now. the last embers having faded into cool grey ash. The air inside the cottage feels calm and fresh. Outside, the village is still asleep. The narrow dirt paths remain empty, and the wooden doors of the cottages stay closed against the cool morning air. But the world is beginning to wake. A faint breeze moves gently across the fields, carrying the cool scent of damp earth and fresh grass. The crops sway softly as the wind passes through them, their quiet rustling becoming the first sound of the coming day. A faint line of pale morning light slips through the edges of the wooden shutter, stretching quietly across the floor. It touches the wooden table, the chair beside it, and the calm walls of the small room. The peaceful night has come to its end. The long hours of rest are nearly finished, and the medieval village, which slept so quietly beneath the stars, is gently preparing to wake once again. For now, though, the cottage remains calm. The morning light grows slowly. The birds continue their soft songs, and the peaceful rhythm of a new day begins to unfold across the quiet village. The evening inside the small cottage has grown very quiet. The fire in the hearth burns lower now, its flame softer than before, no longer dancing brightly against the rough wooden walls. Instead, the fire moves slowly, gently, like a calm breath in the quiet room. Small orange embers glow beneath the logs, giving off a warm and steady light that fills the cottage with a peaceful glow. The family has finished their evening meal some time ago. The wooden bowls have been cleaned and placed carefully back on the small shelf near the wall. The clay pot that once held the warm stew now rests beside the hearth, slowly cooling as the night deepens outside. Beyond the cottage walls, the medieval village has become very still. The narrow dirt path that runs between the cottages is now empty. No carts roll across it anymore, and no footsteps pass by the door. The villagers have returned to their homes, each family settling down for the night just as this one has done. A faint wind moves across the thatched roofs of the village. It slips softly between the wooden beams of the cottage and brushes lightly against the straw roof above. The sound it makes is gentle and quiet, like a slow whisper passing through the dark. Inside, the warmth of the hearth makes the cottage feel safe and comfortable. The father sits for a moment on the small wooden stool near the fire. His day has been long, spent in the fields beyond the village where the soil must be turned and the crops carefully watched. His boots, worn and dusty from the path, rest beside the door where they were placed earlier. He stretches his tired hands toward the fading warmth of the fire. For a few moments he simply sits there in the quiet, listening to the slow crackle of the burning wood. It is a familiar sound, one that has ended many evenings just like this one. Nearby, the mother moves slowly around the cottage. Her movements are calm and unhurried. She lifts the small clay candle holder from the table and walks carefully toward the narrow sleeping corner of the room. The candle flame flickers gently as she moves, casting long shadows that stretch across the wooden floor. The cottage itself is not large. There is only one main room where the family cooks, eats, and rests together. At night, this same space becomes the place where they sleep. Against one side of the wall rests a simple straw mattress. It is covered with rough woven blankets made during the colder months. The blankets are thick and warm, designed to hold the heat of the body through the cool medieval nights. The mother kneels beside the mattress. She lifts one of the blankets and shakes it lightly, so it spreads evenly across the straw beneath. The straw rustles softly, creating a gentle sound that blends with the quiet crackling of the fire. Each movement she makes is slow and careful. There is no hurry now. The work of the day has ended, and the night has arrived in its calm and peaceful way. Near the door, a small wooden bucket filled with water rests beside the wall. Earlier in the evening it was brought from the village well before darkness settled fully across the fields. The surface of the water inside the bucket reflects the faint glow of the fire shimmering gently in the dim light. The father rises slowly from his stool. He walks across the room, his footsteps soft against the wooden floorboards. The boards creak quietly beneath his weight, a sound that is common in old cottages like this one. He moves toward the narrow window. The wooden shutter has already been closed for the night, but a thin line of cool air still slips through the edges of the frame. Outside, the moon has risen above the dark fields beyond the village. Though it cannot be seen clearly from inside, its pale light spreads softly across the rooftops and quiet paths of the sleeping village. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls. The sound floats gently through the night air, echoing softly across the fields and the wooden cottages clustered together near the small church at the centre of the village. Inside the cottage, the candlelight grows dimmer. The mother returns from the sleeping corner and places the candle back on the table. The flame flickers once or twice as the faint wind moves through the room. For a moment, both of them pause. They stand quietly, listening to the peaceful sounds of the night around them. The fire settles deeper into glowing embers. A small log shifts gently within the hearth, sending a brief shower of tiny sparks upward before they quickly fade into the darkness of the chimney above. The warmth in the cottage remains gentle and comforting. Outside, the wind moves slowly through the tall grasses beyond the village. The fields that were busy with work during the day now lie silent beneath the pale moonlight. Back inside, the final preparations for sleep continue. The mother carefully folds a small cloth and places it near the bedside. The father adjusts the wooden latch on the door, making sure it rests firmly in place for the night. These simple routines are done every evening. They are small, quiet actions that bring the day to its peaceful end. The cottage grows even quieter now. The candle flame burns lower, its light softer with each passing moment. The shadows on the walls stretch slowly across the rough wood, moving gently as the fire breathes its last steady warmth. Soon, the cottage will rest in near darkness. Only the glowing embers of the hearth will remain, casting their soft orange light across the floor. And outside, the medieval village will sleep beneath the calm and endless night sky. The fields, the paths, the cottages, and the distant forest will all rest in the same quiet stillness. Inside this small wooden home, the final moments of the day fade slowly away. The peaceful night has fully arrived. The cottage grows quieter with every passing moment. The candle on the small wooden table flickers gently, its soft flame bending slightly whenever a faint draught moves through the room. The light it gives is warm but dim, barely reaching the darker corners of the cottage. The fire in the hearth has settled into a slow and steady glow. Most of the tall flames are gone now, leaving behind glowing coals and a few pieces of wood that continue to burn quietly. Every so often, a soft crackling sound rises from the hearth as the wood slowly shifts and settles deeper into the embers. It is a familiar sound, one that fills the cottage with a calm and comforting rhythm. The father moves slowly across the room once more. His steps are careful and unhurried. The long day of work in the fields has left him tired, and the warmth of the cottage makes his body feel heavy with sleep. He pauses near the small wooden table where the candle rests. For a moment he looks at the gentle flame, watching it dance quietly in the still air. The light reflects softly across the worn surface of the table, showing the marks and scratches left behind from many years of daily use. This table has been part of the cottage for a very long time. Meals have been shared here, bread has been prepared, and simple conversations have passed between family members as the seasons slowly changed outside. Now, on this quiet night, the table rests in silence. The mother moves toward the hearth and bends slightly to adjust one of the logs. With a small wooden tool, she gently pushes the burning wood closer together so the heat will last a little longer through the night. A few sparks glow briefly before fading into the dark chimney above. The warmth from the fire spreads slowly through the cottage, touching the wooden walls and the straw mattress waiting nearby. Outside, the night air has grown cooler. The soft wind that passes through the village carries the quiet scent of damp earth and distant fields. The crops resting beyond the cottages sway gently under the pale moonlight. Somewhere farther away, a wooden gate creaks softly as it moves in the breeze. The sound drifts faintly across the sleeping village before disappearing into the stillness of the night. Inside the cottage, the mother stands and stretches her tired arms for a moment. The long hours of work inside the home have passed quietly, just as the father's work in the fields has done. Yet now the work of the day is finished. There are no more tasks waiting to be done. The wooden bowls have been cleaned. The shutters have been closed. The animals outside have been fed and settled. The cottage is ready for the night. Near the sleeping corner, the straw mattress waits beneath its thick woven blankets. The straw inside the mattress shifts slightly whenever the blankets are adjusted, creating a soft rustling sound. The mother walks over and smooths the blanket once more. Her hands move slowly across the rough woven fabric. Most of the lights inside the cottages have gone dark. Only an occasional faint glow can be seen through a shutter or beneath a doorway. The narrow paths between the homes lie empty under the pale moon. Even the animals in the barns and pens nearby have settled into their own quiet rest. A distant owl calls once more from the trees at the edge of the fields. Its low, hollow sound drifts across the night air and fades slowly into the quiet countryside. Inside the cottage, the father lowers himself carefully onto the mattress beside the mother. The straw rustles softly beneath their weight, before becoming still again. For a moment, neither of them speaks. There is no need for words now. The peaceful sounds of the night, the fading warmth of the hearth, and the gentle glow of the candle create a calm and comforting silence. The day has come to its natural end. Soon, the candle will be lowered, and the cottage will rest almost entirely in darkness. Only the faint glow of the dying fire will remain, quietly watching over the sleeping home until the first pale light of morning slowly returns to the village. The night has now settled fully over the small medieval village. Inside the cottage, the candle that once flickered beside the straw mattress has been gently lowered. Its small flame faded slowly, leaving only a faint trail of smoke curling softly into the quiet air. Now the room rests mostly in darkness. Only the soft orange glow from the hearth remains, spreading gently across the wooden floor and the lower parts of the cottage walls. The embers shine quietly, their warmth steady but calm like a slow and patient heartbeat in the still night. The fire no longer crackles as loudly as it did earlier in the evening. Instead, the sound has softened into an occasional faint whisper as the glowing coals settle deeper into the ash. Every so often, a small spark glimmers briefly before disappearing again. It is a peaceful sound, one that blends easily with the deep silence of the sleeping village. The father and mother now lie beneath the thick woven blankets on the straw mattress. The long day of work has left their bodies tired, and the warmth of the cottage has made sleep come gently and naturally. Their breathing is slow and steady. The blankets rise and fall quietly with each calm breath, moving almost as softly as the glow of the fire across the room. Outside the cottage, the night air has grown cooler. A thin breeze moves through the village paths and across the thatched rooftops. It slips quietly between wooden fences and past the small barns where animals rest inside. The wind carries with it the distant scent of damp soil and quiet fields. Far beyond the cottages, the open farmland stretches under the pale moonlight. The crops stand silent now, their leaves barely moving as the breeze passes through them. In the distance, the dark shape of the forest marks the edge of the village lands. Tall trees stand close together there, their branches swaying slowly against the night sky. From somewhere within those trees, an owl calls again. Its deep, hollow voice travels across the sleeping countryside, echoing gently through the still air before fading into the quiet. Back inside the cottage, the embers in the hearth glow steadily. The warmth they give is softer now, but it's still enough to keep the small room comfortable through the night. The thick wooden walls and the thatched roof help hold the heat inside. The cottage feels safe and sheltered from the cool darkness outside. Near the door, the father's boots remain exactly where they were placed earlier in the evening. Dust from the village path still clings to the worn leather, a quiet reminder of the work that filled the daylight hours. The small wooden table stands nearby in shadow. The clay cup rests upon its surface, empty now, reflecting only the faintest shimmer of the fire's glow. Everything inside the cottage has become still. No movement disturbs the calm space. Even the wind that slips softly through the edges of the shuttered window seems to pass more gently now, as if careful not to disturb the quiet sleep within. The embers shift once more in the hearth. A small piece of wood settles deeper into the ash, sending a faint ripple of light across the nearby wall. The glow brightens for a moment, then slowly softens again. The shadows move slowly with it, stretching and shrinking across the wooden beams above. These beams have watched over countless nights just like this one. Through the passing seasons and many quiet evenings, they have stood strong above the cottage, holding the roof steady through rain, wind, and snow. Tonight they watch over another peaceful sleep. Outside the cottage, the narrow dirt path that winds through the village remains empty beneath the moonlight. The pale glow of the moon spreads softly across the ground, touching fences, rooftops, and quiet gardens. The small church at the centre of the village stands silent. Its bell, which rang earlier in the evening, now rests quietly within the tower. No sound comes from it now, and none will come until morning light returns. The entire village is asleep. Farmers, bakers, and craftsmen rest in their cottages after the long work of the day. The animals in their barns breathe slowly in the dark, and the fields beyond lie calm beneath the wide night sky. Back inside the cottage, the warmth of the fire continues to fade slowly. The embers glow a little softer with each passing moment. The father and mother remain peacefully asleep beneath their blankets, undisturbed by the quiet world outside. The cottage itself seems to breathe gently with the night. The wooden walls hold the warmth close. The roof above shelters the small room from the cool air drifting across the fields. And within this quiet space, the peaceful silence of deep night continues to settle, calm and unbroken, as the long medieval night slowly moves toward the distant promise of morning. The night continues to stretch quietly across the small medieval village. Hours pass slowly beneath the calm sky, though inside the cottage time feels almost still. The darkness has grown deeper now, and the last gentle glow of the hearth has softened into only a few faint embers resting beneath the ash. Their light is dim, but it still flickers gently in the quiet room. From time to time, one small coal brightens briefly before fading again, like a distant star slowly blinking in the darkness. The warmth inside the cottage has cooled slightly, yet the thick wooden walls and thatched roof still protect the small home from the chill of the open fields outside. Beneath the heavy woven blankets, the father and mother sleep peacefully. Their long day of work has carried them deep into rest. The steady rhythm of their breathing fills the quiet room, calm and slow, blending softly with the faint whisper of the night wind. Nothing inside the cottage moves now. The wooden table stands silent in the darkness, its surface barely visible in the dim glow of the fading embers. The clay cup remains where it was placed earlier in the evening. Near the door, the father's boots rest quietly against the wall, still dusted with the pale soil of the village paths. The simple tools of daily life wait patiently for morning. Outside, the wind continues its gentle journey across the land. It moves slowly through the narrow village path, brushing softly against wooden fences and low stone walls. It passes by the sleeping cottages, their windows dark and their doors closed tightly against the night air. The roofs of straw and wood rustle faintly as the breeze passes overhead. Beyond the village, the fields stretch far into the distance under the pale light of the moon. Rows of crops stand quietly, their leaves glimmering softly in the silver glow that spreads across the countryside. The land rests now. During the day, these same fields are filled with the slow and careful work of the villagers, ploughing the soil, tending the crops, and watching the sky for signs of changing weather. But tonight, the fields are peaceful and still. Far away, near the dark edge of the forest, another soft sound rises briefly in the night. It may be the quiet step of a small animal moving through the grass, or perhaps the distant rustling of leaves stirred by the wind among the tall trees. The sound is faint, and soon disappears into the silence again. Back inside the cottage, the embers in the hearth settle even lower. A small piece of wood finally collapses inward, releasing a faint glow before becoming part of the grey ash beneath it. The light it gives grows weaker, leaving most of the room wrapped gently in darkness. Yet the cottage remains warm enough for comfortable sleep. The straw mattress beneath the blankets holds the heat of the bodies resting upon it. The thick blankets protect against the cool air that slowly drifts through the night outside. The mother turns slightly in her sleep. The straw beneath the mattress rustles quietly for a moment, before becoming still once again. The movement is small and gentle, and soon her breathing returns to the same slow and peaceful rhythm. The father remains deeply asleep beside her. His tired hands rest quietly beneath the blankets, finally free from the tools and labour of the long working day. Outside, the moon continues its slow path across the sky. Its pale light moves gently across the rooftops of the cottages, across the narrow dirt paths, and over the small gardens beside each home. The little church at the centre of the village stands silent beneath that moonlight. Its wooden door remains closed, and the tall bell tower rises quietly above the surrounding homes. Inside the tower, the bell rests motionless in the dark. It will not ring again until the first light of morning calls the villagers to a new day. For now, the village belongs only to the quiet night. The animals in their barns sleep peacefully. The horses shift occasionally in their stalls, their slow breathing warm in the darkness. The cows rest upon the straw in their shelters, calm and undisturbed. Even the dogs that guard the village have curled into sleep beside their masters' homes. The night feels deep and endless. Above the countryside, the stars shine clearly across the wide sky, scattered like tiny lanterns across the darkness. They watch silently over the quiet land far below. Inside the small cottage, the final embers in the hearth continue their gentle fading. Their glow is softer now, barely touching the floorboards nearby. Soon even this faint light will disappear completely, leaving the cottage resting in full darkness. But the peaceful silence will remain, and within that silence the family will continue sleeping quietly, safe inside their small wooden home, as the long medieval night slowly carries the village closer and closer to the soft arrival of dawn. The long medieval night has grown deep and quiet. Inside the small cottage, the final embers in the hearth have now faded almost completely. Only a faint warmth remains in the grey ash, where the fire once burned brightly earlier in the evening. The room rests in near total darkness. The wooden walls, the small table, and the simple shelves are now only shapes in the dim night, yet the cottage still feels calm and safe, protected by its thick timber beams and the soft thatched roof above. Beneath the woven blankets, the father and mother continue to sleep peacefully. Their breathing remains slow and steady, rising and falling in a quiet rhythm that fills the stillness of the room. The long day of work in the fields and inside the cottage has given way to deep and comfortable rest. Outside, the village is wrapped in the same gentle silence. The narrow dirt paths that wind between the cottages remain empty under the pale glow of the moon. No lanterns burn in the windows now, and no voices drift through the air. Every home has settled into sleep. The wind that moves across the countryside has softened as the night grows older. It glides slowly over the rooftops and through the wooden fences, carrying with it the cool scent of fields resting beneath the open sky. Far beyond the village, the farmland stretches quietly in every direction. The crops stand motionless now, their leaves dark beneath the silver light of the moon. During the daylight hours, these same fields will once again be filled with quiet labour as farmers walk slowly between the rows of growing plants. But for now, the land is peaceful. The distant forest that marks the edge of the village land stands tall and silent in the darkness. Its towering trees sway gently from time to time, their branches whispering softly when the faint breeze moves through them. From deep within those woods, the soft call of an owl echoes once more across the countryside. Its voice is calm and low, drifting slowly through the cool night air before fading into the distance. Back inside the cottage, the warmth that once filled the room has cooled slightly, though the thick blankets resting over the straw mattress still hold the gentle heat of sleep. The mother shifts slightly beneath the covers. The straw beneath the mattress rustles quietly for a moment before settling again into stillness. Soon her breathing returns to its slow, peaceful rhythm. Beside her, the father remains deeply asleep. His tired body rests comfortably after the long hours spent working in the fields earlier that day. The quiet darkness of the cottage surrounds them both like a soft and protective blanket. The wooden beams above the room remain steady and strong. They have stood above this small home through many seasons of wind and rain. Tonight they watch over another calm and silent night, just as they have done for countless evenings before. Outside, the moon has begun its slow journey across the sky. Its pale light moves gently over the rooftops of the village cottages, sliding quietly across the narrow paths and small gardens that rest beside each home. The small church at the centre of the village stands quietly beneath that same moonlight. Its stone walls are cool and still, and the bell within its tall tower remains silent. It will not ring again until the first pale light of morning reaches the village fields. Until then, the night belongs only to silence and rest. The animals inside their barns continue to sleep peacefully. Horses stand quietly in their stalls, their slow breathing warm against the cool air of the wooden shelters. Cows lie resting upon straw, calm and undisturbed by the quiet world outside. Even the dogs that guard the village have curled into deep sleep beside their masters' homes. Above it all, the sky stretches wide and clear. Thousands of small stars shine softly across the dark heavens, their distant light reaching down over the peaceful countryside. They watch silently as the hours of night pass slowly by. Back inside the cottage, the room has now grown completely dark. The final embers in the hearth have faded into cold ash, leaving no glow behind, yet the peaceful quiet remains, wrapping gently around the sleeping home. The father and mother rest deeply beneath their blankets, safe and warm within the walls of their simple wooden cottage. Outside, the medieval village sleeps on beneath the calm night sky, and somewhere beyond the dark horizon, the first faint promise of morning slowly begins its distant journey toward the quiet fields and cottages of the village. But for now, the night remains soft, still, and endlessly peaceful. The peaceful end. The night continues in its slow and gentle silence. Inside the small cottage, everything has become perfectly still. The fire in the hearth has now turned completely to soft grey ash, and the faint warmth that once filled the room lingers only slightly within the wooden walls. The darkness inside the cottage is calm and deep. Yet even in the darkness, the quiet life of the little home continues. The wooden beams above remain steady, holding the thatched roof in place as they have done through many years and many quiet nights. Beneath the blankets, the father and mother remain fast asleep. Their breathing moves slowly and evenly, undisturbed by the passing hours of the night. The long day of labour has fully given way to rest, and their tired bodies now recover in the peaceful stillness. The straw mattress beneath them holds the warmth of sleep, rustling softly whenever the blankets shift slightly with their gentle movements. Outside, the village lies silent beneath the wide night sky. The moon has moved farther across the heavens now, casting its pale silver light over the rooftops of the cottages and the narrow dirt paths that weave between them. The small gardens beside each home are quiet and dark, their plants resting beneath the cool air of the late night. Not a single lantern burns in any window. Every home in the village has surrendered to sleep. The wind that once moved softly through the streets has grown lighter now. It drifts slowly across the countryside, touching the tall grasses of the fields before slipping quietly past the barns and fences near the cottages. Beyond the village, the farmland remains peaceful and still. The rows of crops stretch quietly beneath the fading moonlight, their leaves barely moving in the faint breeze. These same fields will soon welcome the footsteps of farmers again when morning comes, but for now the land belongs only to the calm of night. At the distant edge of the fields, the forest stands like a dark and silent wall beneath the stars. The tall trees sway gently from time to time, their branches whispering softly when the wind brushes through them. From somewhere deep among those trees, a final owl call drifts across the quiet countryside. Its voice is low and distant, echoing briefly before fading once again into silence. Back in the village, the small church remains motionless at the centre of the sleeping homes. The bell within its tower waits patiently for the morning hour, when its clear ringing will spread across the village and call the people to begin another day. But that moment is still far away, for now the peaceful night continues its slow journey toward dawn. Above the countryside, the stars shine gently in the dark sky. Their soft light has watched over the fields, the forest, and the village for countless nights just like this one. They remain steady and quiet, far above the resting world below. Inside the cottage, the silence feels deep and comforting. The small wooden table stands quietly beside the wall. The clay cup still rests upon it, waiting to be used again when morning arrives. Near the door, the father's worn boots remain exactly where they were placed earlier in the evening, dust from the village path still clinging to their surface. Every object in the cottage waits patiently for the new day. The wooden floorboards hold the memory of footsteps from earlier hours, now resting peacefully beneath the darkness. The shelves along the wall carry the simple tools and clay pots that will once again serve the household when the sun returns. But for now the cottage remains wrapped in calm stillness. Beneath the blankets, the sleeping couple rests quietly, safe inside their humble wooden home. Outside, the village remains silent. The barns shelter the sleeping animals, the cottages protect their families. The quiet paths stretch gently between the homes, empty beneath the fading moonlight. Slowly, very slowly, the night begins its final hours. Far beyond the eastern fields, a faint and almost invisible hint of light begins to touch the far edge of the horizon. It's not yet morning, but the promise of dawn has begun its quiet approach. Soon the birds will begin to stir in the trees. Soon the bell in the church tower will ring once again. Soon the doors of the cottages will open, and the quiet life of the village will begin another simple day. But inside the small cottage, the night remains peaceful. The father and mother continue their deep and gentle sleep, resting in the calm silence that has filled the room for many hours. And as the stars slowly fade above the quiet countryside, the village rests in the final peaceful moments before the soft light of morning finally arrives. For now, the world remains calm, still, and beautifully quiet. And so, the peaceful story of this quiet night in a small 15th century village cottage gently comes to its end. The fire has slept, the village rests, and the calm night slowly fades into the promise of a new day. Good night.